Well, good afternoon, and welcome to Fun With Aviation Museum, home of the most touchable warbirds in Texas, and another edition of Fun With Aviation. Sorry, we got a little bit of a late start here this morning or this afternoon, because I'm talking to Scott Stoddard. He's one of our docents, and Scott's got, I think you said, what, Scott, 900 hours in the O-1 bird dog?
900, yeah.
Yeah, good. So as we walk around the airplane today, Scott is going to be talking to us about the O-1 and his experiences in Vietnam. So this is our O-1. We're going to back up here a little bit so you can see the entire airplane. The O-1 bird dog is kind of interesting, and you may get a glimpse of an OV-10 next to it. We're going to talk about that at some other time. Hi, Mike. Good to see you. And I saw Doc is on here too today. Let's move a little bit to the left. And so this is the entire airplane. It's interesting. We've talked about with the T-33, and we've talked about the T-28 recently, and that those were airplanes that came out of the late 40s after the war and went into the Korean area. Well, this airplane is not much different from that. The O-1 bird dog was originally designed in 1949 after the Army Air Corps, U.S. Army Air Corps disconnected from the Army. Hi, Diane. And the Air Force became separate from the Army. The Army was left with no airplanes, and they wanted an airplane that they could use for artillery spotting and some other functions, liaison and that type of thing. So they went in and they requested, their RFP was for an all-metal airplane. So this became the first all-metal airplane that the Army had. They didn't want any more fabric airplanes like they'd had during the Second World War. So they went to Cessna and asked them, or Cessna was involved with the process. So they used their 305 and 170 as a model for this, to develop this airplane. So as we walk around, we'll show a little bit of that. But again, this is an era of the late 40s, early 50s, where there was all kinds of things going on with aircraft development and transitioning from World War II piston airplanes into jets as we moved along. So this airplane spent almost its entire career in the Air National Guard, and about 20 years ago or so, maybe longer, it was transferred to the North Carolina Forest Service, and it was used essentially as a spotter airplane there also. And that's where we got it from. And this airplane has a distinction of being the only airplane that we've ever flown in here to the museum. I had the privilege and pleasure of riding in the back seat from North Carolina in this. And I can tell you that this is the most fun I'd had in an airplane in an awful long time. So we're going to take a look, get a little bit closer here. This airplane wasn't used in the Second World War. It was used in Korea. And let's move across to the middle, because I want to show them one of the requirements that the Army put out for this airplane is that it had to have good visibility. So first of all, you're going to notice that the windows are a little bit tilted. And you're going to also notice when we show in the cockpit that there's windows up above. So one of the things Cessna did is they moved the entire wing forward so that the wing would be right over top of the pilot, so that they could put glass in the top so the pilot could see out. So they used it in Korea. The Navions were used for a short period of time as the first forward air controllers airborne. And within a couple of weeks or a couple of months of that time, they decided not to use the Navions any longer, and they brought the bird dog into service as a forward air control airplane. At the end of the war, at the end of the Korean War, they had people from the Army evaluated for forward air control purposes later on, or prior to Vietnam, and they decided that it was unsuitable for forward air control work. But of course, we start the Vietnam War, and what's the first FAC airplane that we have, Scott? The O-1 bird dog. So Scott flew him in the Air Force, and I'm going to have him just talk to you a little bit about it. So tell me, we're going to back up so that they can see it a little bit better. This airplane is in a state of restoration. It was also damaged in the accident last year, and we're still waiting on the insurance company on that one too. So tell us a little bit about where you did your training and how you learned to fly the bird dog, and then what you did.
Well, I was flying C-135 before in McGuire, and then I got assignment to the bird dog, so we went to Hurlburt Field, which is the field of Eglin Air Force Base, and we learned there. And we did learn how to be a FAC for the airstrikes, how to
That was way down south, right?
Yeah, way south. And then I got to the headquarters of Ben Trade, and they assigned me to the Special Forces in a field called Muckle. I lived with the Special Forces B team.
Hold on, they're telling me we need to hear from you better, so I'm going to clip it right on your collar. Oops. Okay, there we go.
Okay, then so I was in a place called Muckwa, living with a B team, Special Forces B team. We had 2 Air Force and 2 Army bird dogs up there, and basically they fly a couple times a day, and that's primary for VR, visual reconnaissance, and try to learn as much as we can, look at the ground, remember what you saw, because when you go back the next day or the next week or even in the afternoon, if something changed, and it was in the Vietnam control area, you could look at it and get an airstrike and something like that. So that was our other job, flying air power.
Okay, now you're flying Air Force airplanes,
Right.
and you're flying with the Army, and they're flying Army bird dogs.
Yes.
Okay.
It was 2 separate. We had 2 separate missions. They did this. They were. We were the only ones who put in airstrikes.
Okay.
I usually flew with the Vietnamese intel specialist in the back seat, and if I found something, he would look at it, and we could get approval to put an airstrike in right on the spot. Jim said earlier with the windows in it, they said it was not suitable for air control. The windows in it was probably the best thing I ever had, because all the outside looking down, and those windows on the top, because when the fighter bombers came in, we could look up on top as they were flying over, something like that, and find them. Kind of a formal deal to put in your airstrikes.
Well, I can tell you from right in the back seat. And hi, David. Good to see you again. Our friend David from Taiwan. They're saying they can't hear you. Let me hold on here a second. Okay. Talk a little louder, Scott.
Okay.
Can you hear Scott better now? I mean, give me a thumbs up if you're hearing Scott better. All right, we'll switch mics with Scott. Scott, I'm going to give you that mic. And you give me the other one. Okay. Okay, we're going to give this a try. We're swapping mics around. Okay, give me a thumbs up if you hear Scott now. Scott, give him a test.
Okay, how do you hear me now?
Okay, much better. Okay, very good. Okay.
I think it was the mic, not me.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what you can see is that there's a lot of visibility in here. The guy in the back seat can either sit facing backwards or forwards, and I was really surprised at how much visibility there was in this airplane on the inside.
Well, that was the whole point of it. That visibility. You could see everything, and you were slow enough where you're not going pushing by at 500, 400 miles an hour or something like that. And then when you put airstrikes in, depending on the type of airplane, we put them all in. Most of the time, where I was, we would use Vietnamese A-1s, and they would come up either from Ben Tui or from Docent.
The SPADs. Yeah, the A-1 SPADs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And so they were built quite a bit slower, and they were right down there with us, and we could really pinpoint targets.
Well, so now the Army originally didn't have any externals on the airplane. It was just talking to artillery and liaison and radio relay. But you guys had externals on the wings, didn't you?
We had 2 airplanes, 2 models up there. An O-1E, which was, it had 1 tube on each side, and each tube had 2 rockets in it. And we had what they call Willie Peak, white phosphorus. And it put out a very strong white so we can mark the targets, and no way you can miss it.
Yeah, and we've talked about those before on here too.
And then the E also had on the outside of the rocket a place to put flares. And occasionally, you didn't really want to, it's not a weather airplane or a night airplane, but we flew occasionally. And then we get out over the target area, we drop a flare. If we had troops in contact or something like that, we could go out there and drop the flares and light the area up. The other airplane we had was an O-1G, which was transistorized firing system. So we had 2 tubes on each side. So we had 4 rockets on that one. So we could stay out there quite a while marking targets.
Okay. Well, I'm noticing, I know the airplane was used for radio relays and things like that, and we've got a bunch of antennas on this airplane, if you can see them on top of the wing. What kind of radios did you carry?
We had standard Air Force UHF, so we could talk to Air Force fighter bombers. Then we had VHF, because the Vietnamese used VHF frequencies for their airplanes. We could talk to the ground troops through FM.
Okay.
And then we had an ADF for our navigation, and that was all we had for navigation. And this airplane doesn't have it, but we also used HF antennas on the back that if we ever someplace we got lost, and then somebody pushed the mic button for 15 seconds.
Yeah, and you could guide on that.
Yeah, guide in on that one. Now they had a lot of radios on it, and that put some weight on this. So this was right up to max weight because we had all those radios, and then the seat, something nobody knows about, we had a chunk of steel underneath the seat.
That was your armor plating.
That was my armor plating underneath. So they're going to shoot us. They're not going to give me in the rear end. You know.
Let's take a little bit. Here's a look at the tail. We've looked at some of this stuff before. Hi, Susan from Wisconsin. We've looked at this before. There's no fabric on this airplane. We don't have a flying tail, but we do have a trim tab. We've talked about trim tabs before. And that was mechanical, right? There's no hydraulics on this airplane.
None whatsoever.
And we've got the rudder. And you'll notice that we have a little bit of a trim tab on the rudder here. And David talked about this on the T-28, where people over time would manually bend that piece so that they would get... go ahead, Scott.
Okay, the object of that, actually, there's no rudder trim in the cockpit.
Okay.
It's all done with this tab. And if you ever come in a war zone, you don't want to go where the airplane's pointing.
Okay.
Because they lead you.
Yeah.
So every so often we go out there and we bend that tab, and we either fly a crab or a slip.
Ah, all right.
And that way they're aiming in front of you where you
look like you're going, where you're not actually going that way. Okay, well, let's go around the airplane a little bit here. And Scott was telling me a little bit about when they were flying with the Army, they traded off airplanes so that they would know the differences between the two airplanes. And let's see if you can see in the cockpit here very well. It's not all that great, but Scott's going to tell you about something that they discovered about the differences between the Air Force and the Army O-1s.
This is basically the only real difference in them. So if you look over on the left side, you'll see an airspeed indicator. And I don't know if you can probably
see it's in the upper left corner of the instrument panel.
The Army at the time had miles an hour. The Air Force used knots. And I was flying the Army airplane once, and I was going final airspeed, final approach airspeed. And the Army pilot in the back seat, speed up, speed up. I said, well, I'm going right on speed. We looked at it, and that's when it dawned on us. I was flying 65 knots, or excuse me, 65 miles an hour, not 65 knots. And, excuse me, that was a big deal about that.
Okay, so it's a small difference, but it can make a big difference. Mike is asking about, Scott wants to show us something here. Yeah.
We go to any place you see these tugs out there moving airplanes around and stuff like that. This is our tug. You know, whenever I landed, my crew chief, he would get on one side and I would get on the other side, and we'd haul the airplane into the revetment.
Okay.
That was our tow bar.
The built-in handle. Now, did you fly with one person or two people most of the time?
Most of the time, I was in the front seat.
Okay.
Most of the time, I had a Vietnamese intelligence officer.
Okay.
And if we found something or spotted something where we think needs a airstrike, something like that, he would clear. If we're not in a free fire zone, we ended up getting the approval from the nurse.
Okay.
And he was there giving the approval.
Okay, Mike James has just asked, where's some of the damage from the storm? You're seeing some of it right here. We've got a ripple in the fuselage, which was from the airplane being moved around, and we've got some damage on the leading edge. Part of the problem we're having with the insurance company, and I'm operator error here with the gimbal, I'm not that well versed in it still, is that the airplane was spun around, it hit our mobile simulator RV, and was dropped, so we got some damage to the fuselage, and I'll show you the damage on the leading edge. The insurance companies need a very specific line item description of what needs to be done to the airplane to fix it. And frankly, we're not finding anybody who can do that for us. So if any of you know of somebody who could help us out by doing a line item for us as to the damage to the airplane, what it would need to be fixed up. And here is the leading edge damage, which took place. Oh, we got wasps living in the wing. From when the airplane was shoved around, and it ended up hitting the RV that was parked in here in our glowworm, and then rubbed on it. So that's part of the rest of the damage. So we're coming up on our 20 minutes here, but we thought you'd like to see the engine. The engine on this airplane was unique. It was not the engine from the 305 or the 170. The engine on this airplane is, I believe it's called an IO 470. And Scott was talking about it a little bit ago. It's a flathead 6, and we're going to lift up the cowling here so that you can see it while Scott talks about it.
Okay, this is a 6-cylinder.
They don't all come with bird nests, by the way.
No. we take those out every morning. But it's a 6-cylinder, and the engine, I believe it was 213 horsepower.
Okay.
Because of what you talked about, all the radio.
Right.
My armament.
And you could fly about 130 miles an hour on a good day?
No.
Okay.
You know, if I remember right, about 95 or something
okay.
like that.
Okay.
We didn't do it. It was a gas guzzler, too. We had 2 tanks, fuel tanks on each side. You climb up on a strut, put your foot up here, and that's how you get
going up on top and figuring it out.
And
okay.
That's how you record.
Okay.
But the engine itself, like I said, is a more powerful engine than its civilian counterpart, the 170.
Okay.
Because of, you start putting rockets on this thing,
yeah,
radios on it, armament on it, and you're overweight before you can taxi out almost. It is heavy.
Well, and it's advertised as having a 500 or 50-foot takeoff distance and a 50-foot landing distance, but I'm going to suggest that that's probably not the case, right?
Not with this airplane loaded.
Okay.
I'll guarantee you. It was short. We could get off pretty good, but and again, that was 50 years ago.
Yeah, it only feels like 30,
time
right?
ago. Yeah. But we take off and land pretty short. One of the big things about it is the flaps.
Yeah, let's go back and look at the flaps.
We did have flaps, and that 50-foot landing is probably realistic if you go full flaps.
Okay.
And our flap gauge on our airplane, come over here,
Okay.
was lines. We didn't
Oh,
have a
lines
gauge
on the
inside.
window. Okay.
So you match the flap with the line, and then they put flap indicators in.
Okay.
That's how you can check your flap.
Okay. Mike's got a good question here. What's the difference between the O-1 and the L-19? When the airplane was originally designed for the Army, it was designated to be the L-19, which was Liaison 19, which was kind of in line with the airplanes like the Stinsons and the Taylor craft and the Pipers from the Second World War. When the airplanes went to the Marine Corps, so the Army started out with L-19s. For the Marine Corps, they were designated OE-1s, and so the Marine Corps flew them in Vietnam. In fact, here's a bit of trivia for you. Does anybody know who Ed McMahon was? Who was Johnny Carson's sidekick? Give me a thumbs up if you know about that. You're going to be showing your age, but go ahead. Nobody knows who Ed McMahon was. Well, Ed McMahon was Johnny Carson's sidekick on The Tonight Show way too many years ago. Ed McMahon was a Marine Corps pilot, and before he flew F-86s, he flew OE-1s in Korea. He was a FAC in Korea, and VMO 6, which was Marine Observation Squadron 6 in Korea. At some point in the 60s, and I'm not sure where, I think it was along about 65, 66, maybe even 67, the airplanes were all redesignated so that it would be designated as O-birds, or observation birds, and that's when the L-19 and the OE-1s were changed to O-1 bird dogs. And does anybody know how the name got the name bird dog got chosen for this airplane? Okay, Mike, he says he does. Okay, Mike, you want to tell us how the airplane got the name bird dog? We'll give him a second here, and if he doesn't, I'll tell everybody. Can't tell whether he's madly typing away or not. Okay, I'm not seeing anything more here from Mike. So what I'm going to tell you is it came out of a contest with. Oh, there we go. Oh, he was talking about Ed McMahon. Okay, the airplane got its name out of Wichita, where the airplane was built by the employees. It was a contest to name the airplane, and they decided to call it the Bird Dog because it was a hunting dog that would look for prey and look for targets, and so that name has stuck with it all of these years. So we've actually been on a little bit longer than I thought we were going to be on today, but we were lucky to have Scott here with us today because I would have just made a lot of stuff up, whereas Scott was telling you real stories. So for now, we're going to tell you thanks for being with us again here today. We'll do another airplane, maybe the last of our airplanes, on Wednesday. But for now, from the Fort Worth Aviation Museum, home to the most touchable warbirds in Texas, we'd like to thank you for being with us here today. We are open today. We will be open next Saturday, and we are making plans to be able to open the museum up itself. But for right now, we're open Saturdays only from 9 until 2. And we still want you all to stay safe. And if you've got any suggestions for other things we can do for you on the tours, please let us know that. But for now, thanks for being with us, and have a good weekend.